Visions of the future, post-apocalyptic stories.
Hello, glad you're still with me. This is the last film in the short series of films called Visions of the Future. To finish off with, it seems entirely appropriate that we talk about the apocalypse, the end of the road.
Post-apocalyptic stories.
This subgenre of dystopic media often contains aspects of previous categories such as the Great Unravelling, A Wrong Turn, etc. And the difference between this category and the unravelling idea is simply that these stories tend to hinge on a world-changing event and the after effects of that. So there's sort of a refinement of that idea, whereas the unravelling was all about really society just slowly falling to pieces. Now, this idea of a world-changing event can be specified or unspecified. These are narratives which detail life after a cataclysmic happening, be it a war, an attack from outside or inside even, an invasion, a plague, or an unforeseen natural disaster. These stories tend to be infused with a survivalist paranoia. These stories also provide another moral test. Who would we be after the bomb drops? Would we have the moral, physical and philosophical resources to build a new world out of the ashes? Would we have that kind of resolve? And indeed, what kind of society would we build? Would it be a dystopic one? Would it be a utopian one? As with aspects of the other subgenres, like noir and the futuristic oppressive city, this strand of dystopic media bears traces of pioneer and Western narratives. Characters wander in search of Eden, of civilization, and an order that has been obliterated. Post-apocalyptic pilgrims are in search of sanctuary and a new life, or maybe a chance to reconstruct and maybe reenact the old one. Yet they often find, as with the Old West, that in the Great Plains, in the Great Deserts, in the wastelands, they find merely a reflection of themselves and their own failings. Eden is gone and the land is not redemptive, but acts merely as a cruel mirror that reflects back our own weaknesses and our own foibles.
So, concluding.
So what we have in conclusion are a rough, non-definitive list of how filmmakers and programmers have approached representing the future in a multitude of different ways. Remember, these 5 categories I've discussed so far are, yes, closely interlinked, they overlap, depending on each example and your perspective on that. And yes, they're probably imperfect. They are always up for revision and could always stand some kind of redefinition and addition. But for me, I'm hoping that these short films would have pointed you towards some lesser-known examples of this area of media production. This is really a doorway to an area of study, and also a chance to give you some cool clips and hopefully some interesting ideas. Stories about dark futures, warped societies, and bewildered protagonists wandering through the ruins of our own civilizations are prevalent and clearly addictive. Does this go beyond a hunger for the bleakest of dramatic situations? Or does this trend tell us much about our collective cultural idea of what we think the future holds for us? When you stack up the numbers, it's really clear that bad news probably sells more than good news, and it seems our cultural imagination enjoys stories of dystopias more than they do utopias. We do seem less concerned with creating a coherent, idealistic vision for the future based on new, expansive ideas than we do replaying multiple versions of what we've seen already, and in a weird manner, taking comfort in them. Perhaps, as Frederick Jameson says, we can't form a vision of the future that doesn't revolve around a more cluttered, extreme or flawed version of our own present one, or, conversely, one that depicts a total apocalyptic collapse. So to finish with, is dystopic media merely another myth that we tell ourselves, a fable, a cultural story that we use to scare ourselves or to impart a moral lesson? Or are we trying to tell ourselves something that instinctually we know our time might well be up? Maybe it is time now that we asked ourselves, what happened to the future?
Visions of the future, post-apocalyptic stories.
every moment, there is the possibility of a better future. But you people won't believe it. And because you won't believe it, you won't do what is necessary to make it a reality. So you dwell on this terrible future, you resign yourselves to it. For one reason, because that future doesn't ask anything of you today.
Please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more films and items of interest. Visions of the Future.